The music you listen to says a lot about who you are. In this podcast, we discuss how that music may shape your life. We talk to normal people with a love for music and people that are in the music industry in one form or another. My name is Craig Seibert, and we want to know your music story. Welcome to Music Musing. Okay, welcome back to Music Musing. I have Ivan Cekov on today, and wow, so how did we meet? That was weird.
Technical issues with my Adobe Connect room.
Exactly. It's your job and my job coinciding with each other. It was kind of a weird happenstance. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you mentioned something about how clear my mic was, and I said that I do podcasts, and you're like,
right.
What do you do podcasts with?
Right.
Music.
Yep. There's
and then you went into, hey, guess what I do? And hey, guess who I know? And we'll get into that later on. Right. But so this is part two. I had a great conversation with your daughter about her history in music, where she came with it, and a lot of it had to do with you, obviously.
Right.
But also other influences that have influenced her as far as music likes and the things she does in music. Uh-huh. And that's what we're here for tonight. Talk about the same thing.
Perfect.
So with her, I kind of did the opposite of what I normally do. I usually start at the beginning. With her, I kind of started towards the end because I wanted to tie you and her together. But I do want to start at the beginning with you. Now, obviously, I've mentioned this in the last one. And is deadhead a derogatory statement, or is that okay to say that?
Not to us deadheads. It's not.
Okay, then that's point confirmed. That's what I wanted to hear. So when you were like, what's your youngest thought or memory of being influenced by music? Not necessarily Grateful Dead stuff, but just, was it your parents listened to radio? Was it, in the car? Did you hear a song? Can you think of the earliest memory where you got influenced on music?
I sure can.
Okay.
I remember my parents I came to this country when I was 6. I was born in Germany. And so they brought over a lot of, some of the furniture that we had over there. One of those things was a Grundig radio, an AM, FM, it looked like a big piece of furniture, basically, right? And I remember sitting in front of that when I was maybe 9 or 10 years old and listening to the rock and roll stations from Philadelphia and getting familiar with some of these songs, artists like, Elton John. I remember Your Song was probably one of the first songs that I really, really liked, that. And then just getting in touch with, with other music and being exposed to all these other musics. And then I was into the, the rock and roll of the day, in this, the 70s, the Yes, the Bad Company, all the bands that were around back then. And I just got, just music became a part of my life. Deep Purple, so all these different bands, and, little by little, different people that I'd meet, I got exposed to more different music. And then when I was, my first concert, I was 16. I got a chance to see Aerosmith at the Philadelphia Spectrum. Wow. And so I went with some friends, and Golden Earring opened up for them, which was cool. And then Aerosmith played. Sadly, right in the middle of Sweet Emotion, the 5th song in, some idiot threw a bottle up at Joe Perry, the drummer. And Steven Tyler said, "Okay, that's it. We're out of here. We got to take Joe to the hospital," right?
What?
So that was my very, very first concert experience, right? However, what was interesting is I thoroughly just got the vibe of what live music was all about. And this was, was 1978. So, the theatrics, all the stuff that's around today, that wasn't even there. I was just blown away at, 12, 15,000 people in the same place. And just the music, the sound, the whole thing. And so I started going to more concerts, and in the Philadelphia Spectrum between the years of 1978 and 85, I probably saw 100 different concerts over the span of those 7 years. So all the bands that, I didn't see every single band, but I saw, a lot of bands. And one of them that stands out, Bad Company was one of my favorite bands back then. And I saw them one night, and they were playing the next night. And I thought, let's go tomorrow, right? Well, turns out it was pretty much the same show, right? So that's
Okay.
when I learned that concerts, pretty much when a band goes on tour, they're pretty much going to play the same thing
Right.
every night, right? So I just thought that was the norm. So, I still love going to concerts, and, just saw a bunch of different shows. And then in 1985, a friend of mine from college said, "Hey, let's go see the Grateful Dead." Now, I knew who they were. For whatever reason, the timing was never such that I was able to go, right?
Okay.
So I said, "Yeah, let's go." So we go down to that same venue that I'd seen all those other shows at. And one of the things I always loved about the live venue, or the live music, was I thought, man, it would be so awesome just to be able to bottle this and just kind of, relive it. And but how do you do that? They were, at the time, there was like live concert records that were coming out and whatnot, but it just the feeling, the energy, right? So anyway, go to my first ever Grateful Dead show in April 1985. So the band had been playing for 20 years by that point, right? So they were firing on all cylinders. And so I came in kind of as a newbie into the whole scene back in 85. So
can I interrupt just for a second?
Yeah.
Did you go alone or did you go with the other friends?
No, I went with my friend.
Okay.
And so I can't recall if it was the first time he'd seen him. Now I was like 20 something, 21. He was 16, right?
Okay.
We were actually neighbors in college. And so anyway, we went, and I walked into the same venue that I had seen all these other concerts at. And what I saw was not a band playing to an audience. What I saw and experienced was a living organism. Some sort of, I can't even explain it. It was other people that know what I'm talking about are going to get it right away. But it was just the band was on stage, and 20,000 people in the Philadelphia Spectrum were all grooving and vibing to the same thing, feeding that energy back to the band consistently, and for the 3.5 hours that they played. And I was just blown away. I remember looking up into the third level, the third level seats where the portals are. There were people, the light was coming through the portal. You could see people dancing in the hallways everywhere. And I'm going, what the heck is going on here? This is something. I can't believe, and I knew several Grateful Dead songs by then. I remember was it ninth grade, I think. I was our bus driver, our school bus driver, kind of reminded me of Otto, the guy on the Simpsons,
from Simpsons,
right? Same kind of guy, right? But he had hooked up stereo speakers in the back of the bus, and so we would always hang out in the back of the bus, and he'd crank up the radio, and we'd listen to tunes on the way home. And I remember, I don't know, like Sugar Magnolia coming on, and Scarlet Begonias, Fire on the Mountain. I'd heard Truckin', heard these songs. Casey Jones, I'd heard some of these songs, but I just never connected to be able to go to a show for whatever reason. Timing wasn't appropriate, I guess.
Yeah.
So that night I was going, wait a minute, there is something happening here. Are these guys playing tomorrow? And he goes, yeah. I go, let's get tickets. So we ended up, I don't even know how we did it, but we got tickets for the next day. Well, much to my surprise, the next night was a completely different show. They didn't play the same songs, although that's totally what I was expecting. And I'm going, wait, hey, buddy, Aaron, these guys are not playing the same. No, they play whatever they feel like. Now, they weren't as back, in the 80s, it was a little bit more structured than it was freeform back in the, earlier years. But but still, they gave every single jam they did, every single transition was just, it was a new experience, So I was saying, there's no two Grateful Dead shows that are the same, and which is true, right? So I went to those two shows, and I said, this is amazing. I need to go to another one. So I found out that they were playing in Hershey, Pennsylvania, at Hershey Park.
Right? Oh yeah, been there.
Been there, right? So we went to Hershey, in this football stadium or something that was out there, and it was raining hard. We were in the field, right? Muddy. The band was playing. It was just it was an amazing occurrence, just, and getting more and more engaged in the whole thing, and just thinking, my God, all these people are out here, it's pouring rain, but nobody cares. And it's just, I had not experienced anything like that before. All the other concerts I'd seen were inside at the Spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, I then end up moving over to coming to California. And I happened to be down in San Diego, and lo and behold, the Grateful Dead were playing at Chula Vista at Southwestern University. I went to that show outside football stadium in the San Diego sunshine, and that was just amazing. And I'm going, man, and I still haven't heard the same song twice, after all this time. And then I just started to go and go and go. And then I was up in San Francisco, living in San Francisco for a period of about 3 years. So the cool thing was, if they weren't on the East Coast or Midwest touring someplace, they were on the West Coast, and within 200 miles, typically on any given weekend, I was going to see 3 or 4 shows a weekend.
And this is the original band. This is not like cover bands. This was
the great
wow.
Right. And then I started to go see Jerry Garcia band shows, and other people that were connected, and it just became a part of my DNA. You know what I mean? And because certain songs just kind of they kind of became the soundtrack to my life, if you will.
Oh, I mean? That's awesome.
And so the one song that I'm sure Nicole mentioned was "I Will Take You Home," that Brent Midland. The first time I saw that song performed live was in Berkeley at the Greek Theater in Berkeley. Beautiful afternoon, and all of a sudden I hear this tinkling of the piano, and I go, "What is this?" And it was this beautiful song that Brent Midland wrote for his daughters, and I started bawling my eyes out. I get emotional every time I talk about it, but I started crying. I'm going, oh my God, this is such a gorgeous song. So by that time, I met Nicole's mom when Nicole was 2 months old. Okay. So I'd been with her for pretty much, for her life, right? And so I started singing her that song as a lullaby. Right. Whenever she was fussing or whatever. And I probably sang that song to her 1,000 times,
That's awesome.
And so we kind of got connected in that. And she actually came with me a few times. I think her first show was when she was 3. And so we went up to the Shoreline Amphitheater up in the Bay Area, and she was up there and having fun, just checking everything out. I still have this really cool picture of her sitting on her mom's lap, just gazing up in the, up at the crowd and at the band and everything. And then the next time, so I think we went a couple of times when she was 3. And then the next time she came with me and her uncle. And we all cruised up in my Volkswagen Westphalia, and I used to have this. I used to sell pasta veggie stir fry on the lot, and drinks and things like that, and juice boxes and whatever. And so she came up with me, and she helped me sell, the food that we were making for everybody, out in the parking lot. And that one of those shows it was again at Shoreline. One of those shows, it was the coolest thing. We were up on the lawn, and the second set was just about to start. And so I'm holding her up in my arms, and I said, hey, and it was really quiet because the band had just come out and they were getting tuned, everything was, they were just getting ready. And so it was super quiet because everybody is always, hey, what are they going to open with? What are they going to open the set with? Right. Because it was always a mystery. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm holding Nicole in my arms, and I said, Nicole, what song do you want Jerry to play? And she says, well, I really like China Cat Sunflower, Dad. So I said, well, listen, it's really quiet right now. If you yell it really loud, maybe Jerry will turn around. Maybe he'll play it. Right. So anyway, she screams at the top of her 6-year-old lungs going, China Cat Sunflower. And everybody was still sitting down on the grass around us. And all these, these deadheads turn around and look at me holding her. And they're, kind of like a little, isn't that cute kind of look. Right? Uh-huh. As soon as they all turn back towards the stage. Jerry turns around with the first few notes of China Cat Sunflower. And then all those people were going, what? A 6-year-old just called that song? How's that possible?
That is awesome.
It was cool. And, so that's when she was, that was like 1994 or whatever. And then later, when Jerry passed in 1995, that was kind of a dark time. And obviously, and everybody was really sad. It took a year for Nicole. When I was driving in the car, every time I turned on the Dead, she'd go, Papa, I can't hear it. I can't hear that right now. I can't hear that right now. So it took like a year for her to actually be able to want to listen.
At that age, even.
At that age, right. And so we went up to Jerry's memorial service up in Goldgate Park.
Wow, you were there.
Yeah, we were at that event. And, it was just, it was tear jerking. There's like, 30,000 people together, and
yeah,
it was harsh. But Nicole was with me. It was very moving.
So much. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then so that was when she was, let's see, 7-ish, I guess, and then it kind of just ebbed and flowed a little bit. But then as she got older, like I remember when she was 16. She gave me a flag for my flagpole, because I always, whenever I was in the lot, people would find me by the flag I flew, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my marker. Well, the flag I had got completely destroyed, so she bought me a brand new one, and with the dancing bears on the bottom and the Steal Your Faith on the center. And I still, to this day, have that flag. So here we are, almost 16 years later, right?
Yeah.
I still have that flag, and I fly it whenever, heck, I fly it here at the house whenever I'm streaming a show or something, And so she gave me that. And then little by little, the first time we kind of went to a show post Jerry was at the Ventura Theater to go see Bob Weir. And I hadn't seen, I'd seen sporadically some of the other incarnations of the band over the, from 95 until this time. And, but I went to the Ventura Theater, which only holds like 1,000 people. And I ran into, 150 people that we used to all go on tour together, and so people from
just like everybody was still there and just doing it.
Still there. It was like a family reunion. And I'm going, oh my gosh, the bus never stopped rolling. So I was going, okay, you know what? This is it. I'm wherever these guys go, whatever happens, I'm in it for the long haul again, because I took some time off, I still liked the music and everything, but there was a period there where I missed some shows. Because I didn't realize that the scene was still as strong as it was. And then ever since then, gradually, we have gotten, our ability to go, because as she got older, she spent some time in Hawaii. I actually got her, this was a great story, I don't know if she told you, but Phil Lesh and Friends was playing on Maui, right? Now she was working currently on Lanai at the resort on Lanai, right? So I got her it was a December 30th, 31st show. So I got her tickets, and, I figured, well, she can just take the ferry and go over there. So the day of the show at like 3:00 in the afternoon, she calls me from Hawaii and says, and she's crying, and she goes, Papa, I know you got me these tickets, but I don't think I can make it. I don't have any place to go. There's no hotels. And I said, hold on, let me fix this. So I start calling some people, friends of mine. I put some stuff out on Facebook, stating the situation. I said, I need help. My daughter needs to get to Phil and Friends in Maui. Who you guys know out in Maui, or, whatever. My buddy from Montana calls me back and says, hey, listen, we need to talk to so-and-so. He's got a friend. Anyway, long story short, we connect up with this guy. My daughter gets Nicole gets his information. They start connecting while she's on the ferry. I said, listen, do not miss that ferry. You need to get on the ferry. It's going to work out by the time you land in Maui. Guarantee it. And lo and behold, but when she gets to the ferry landing in Maui, here comes this guy who had just gotten off work, who had been involved in the conversation, picks her up. They go to his and his girlfriend's apartment. They have a barbecue. They go to the show. She ends up going to both shows, and everything worked out magically. It's just, yeah, there's so many stories. I mean, we could do an entire season.
I love creating a Music Musing podcast. It lets me see how music affects people in different ways. We're always looking for interesting guests, so if you know someone in the music industry or someone who really has a great music-related story, reach out to us at musicmusingfeedback@gmail.com. This podcast is produced out of my pocket, so if you want to help with that process, we also have a Patreon at patreon.com/musicmusing. You can join for as little as $1 a month, and we have some cool behind-the-scenes pictures and stories, and even a sticker. You could even co-host a show idea that you have rolling around in your head. And lastly, please leave us a great review on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on. It helps us reach out to more people who may enjoy these conversations. Thank you for your time, and back to the Music Musing podcast. There's so much to unpack from what you said. Where do I start? Okay, first off, I am amazed that you remember all these in such detail. And when I think back of the concerts I went to, I've only had that experience that you're talking about where everybody kind of was in the band or on the stage one or two times. They did an outdoor show in Zephyrhills, Florida called Livestock that was 3 days of bands. You camped out, you went and watched bands. I got to see Leonard Skinner and some of the newer bands of the days. Yeah. I kind of felt that, but the fact that you know so much details about sets and days and stuff like that blows my mind. But let me jump back to the beginning.
Go.
Your parents brought this big piece of machinery over.
Yeah.
Was it a radio or a record player?
It was a radio record player.
Okay, so, yeah, one of the big skinny ones, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
I grew up with my grandparents having one of those in my house.
Yep.
So it sounds like you heard more on the radio there than you did on the records. Were they playing records? Were you listening to?
No, my parents weren't. My parents, my mom being from Germany, they did listen to records, but it was all German artists. Artists and singing. And my dad, he had some Bulgarian records. My dad played guitar, an acoustic guitar that I still have. Played basically Bulgarian folk music and stuff, right? But so I started listening to stuff on the radio, and then when I don't know how I even got started with it, but remember Columbia House Records?
Oh yeah, dude, anybody in our era remembers that?
That's right,
hands down. I'm still paying for mine at this point.
Well, that's when I started getting LPs,
Yeah,
and so I was buying getting the deals for whatever bands I wanted. So I still have some of those records in my other room.
So you mentioned your dad played guitar. Did he sing as well? Was he singing?
He did, but in Bulgarian.
Traditional?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. It was great to hear him sing. I mean, he had a great voice. Somewhere I still have little tiny reel-to-reel tapes. He had this little reel-to-reel recorder, and he would record stuff. They're packed up here in the house somewhere. But
so did that influence you to ever want to play? Did you ever try and start?
I did. And here's a funny thing. So
I knew I'd get a good story out of this one.
I wanted to take guitar lessons, right?
Okay.
Because I want to learn how to do that and play and sing, and so I started taking guitar lessons. Well, those guitar lessons were oftentimes at the same time that my little league practice was, right? So I had to kind of make a choice. Well, here I am. I don't know how old I was, 11 or something. And I'm thinking, well, let's see. Clearly, I'm going to be playing in the Major League Baseball. So maybe I'll just do the guitar lessons, maybe later on the side.
Yeah.
So I played Little League for 3 years. That was it, right? But no, so I here and there I'd started again, and
yeah.
But my passion, actually, as funny as my passion is singing. And when it comes to singing, like in the range of, the range of Garcia, I remember a couple of times where I'd be in the car, and actually, I think it was Nicole mentioned to me, "Dad, you sound just like Jerry," in
really?
certain parts, and I'm like, going, "Oh, isn't that something?" So, that's what I really like to do. I really like to do that, but
and that it always gets overlooked as an instrument. because people just don't understand what it takes to keep in perfect pitch and to keep in tone and to keep in time in singing and to sing those different levels, because people don't sing in the same levels. I mean, people, they hear music, people hear music and people singing them and go, oh, I can do that. Well, sometimes you're a soprano and they're a tenor. That's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. Michelle, my wife, Michelle, we haven't done it in a while, but when we did karaoke, right. She'd want me to, hey, sing this song with me. I go, I can't sing like that. I can't reach that level, And it was funny. We ended up getting, that was it for the Wii, I think, the Rock Band or something like that.
Yep.
And what was interesting is they how it gauges how well you're playing, right? Or singing for the microphone.
Yep, or singing, yeah.
Right? And so I actually downloaded a bunch of Grateful Dead songs, and I was singing along at the medium level, right? The medium, like easy, medium, and hard. I was singing along at the medium, and I got like 98% for accuracy, which I'm like going, that's pretty good.
Maybe I need to be singing.
But I just do it for fun. I do it in the car, when I'm, whatever. I mean, when I'm outside, I don't know, whatever, singing along.
So she did tell me the story of China Cat Sunflower. She still, it was kind of funny because she's like, I don't know if it was a memory, if he just told me so many times that I think I remember. Which I've had that go through with my son as well. I said, don't you remember this? Well, yeah, Dad, you've told me like 16 times. I said, well, do you remember it? Oh, I don't know. I don't even remember. But so you started her when she was really young, kind of going. And but it sounds like maybe I got the timeline mixed up here. Were you going to multiple shows at that point when you started taking her, or did that start later?
No, I was going to multiple shows. I mean, let's see, so my first show was in 1985, 1988. By that time, I'd probably had 50 or so plus.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Okay.
And then, so that was there was a few years there where I was hitting 30 or so shows a year. So that between the Dead and Jerry Garcia Band, and I mean, it was like I said, every weekend there was something going on somewhere on the West Coast.
Help me here, because again, I understand it. I've seen it my entire life. I've seen, I've had friends that have been in it. I go to concerts. I got friends that go to concerts and everything. But help me here, because what for you? And I know you've kind of described that it feels like you're part of it, but what makes it such a difference to go to a regular concert as going to a Dead concert? Why is it that? Why do you think it's that different? And again, not necessarily how you feel about it, but do you think they cultivate that? Do you think that they, there's something different they do that other bands are either missing out? I know there's other bands like Fish and stuff that kind of do the same thing, but are other bands missing out on something at that point?
That whole, I mean, everything that evolved from when they started. Now, I'm not by any means any kind of historian or anything. I just know what I've experienced, but when everything started, and everything started out of the San Francisco scene, and it grew and grew and grew, obviously a loyal following came along with that. Right. And so the interesting thing is at a Grateful Dead related event or show, what I experienced was a sense of community, a true sense of community, brother helping brother, sister helping sister, and everything, it was, some of the best friends I have in my life, I met because of this.
Well, I mean, it ties into your Hawaii show that you were talking about with your daughter.
Exactly.
I mean, you're talking about how do you talk about Pearl Jam or Bad Company or any of those concerts you're talking about, you couldn't have gotten people to do that for those types of bands and stuff like that.
As a matter of fact,
sometimes go ahead.
I was coming back from a show one time in where was it? So somewhere LA, I think, and I was coming up Pacific Coast Highway, had to get gas, and I saw a guy that saw the stickers on my car. He came over to me and he said, "Hey man, I need your help." I go, "What's up, brother?" And he's wearing a Dead shirt, and he goes, "Man, I need $5 for gas or something, and my car ran out." I go, "Sure, man, here you go." Boom. Just
didn't even think about it. I didn't
know the guy, just because we connected on that level, right? But back to your original question, if it was that experience of community that I that you'd find for, because we did camping events 3 days, 4 days, whatever, right? At Laguna Seca was a great time, a few years. And all, back in the day, we would be able to go, to Irvine. We'd camp out there for 3 days, and everybody just hung out and met, and people cooked and fed each other. And it was just one big community, self-policing community for the most part, right? So in contrast, you go to, I don't know, you go to some regular old rock concert or whatever, and there's people, maybe you talk to somebody that's parked next to you while you're tailgating or whatever, but it's not that level. It's not, everybody's out doing their own thing. Everybody's on a different wavelength. But when we all get together, that is the center of the universe, and everybody is just connected. I mean, it's just,
and it feels like you go away with that community.
Yeah.
Like you come to the shows and you're in that community, but you go away with that community. And that's the one thing. It's a really good point, because that's the one thing I always went with my friends to concerts, but my friends and I went out and ate afterwards. Yeah. Not my friends and 7 other people we met, or a group of other people we met. We never took that away. If I met somebody and we talked to them, while we were tailgating or something, I've got pictures of those people, but I'll never see them again. Right. It's not somebody I take away. So it's an interesting concept. I hadn't thought about that it's more what you take away from it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, I mean, yes, you have the community inside, but what you take away is really what you're getting from those concerts and those interactions. I mean, I don't even know if do you call them concerts at that point? They're more events.
You just call them shows.
Yeah.
Shows. Next show, see you at the show, man. And, the thing is, for me, the show started the minute, like, I don't know, pulling into the Oakland Coliseum, for example, on a Friday at noon, let's say, right, to go in to get ready to camp and set up, and even I was vending food and stuff. But my show started the moment I entered the parking lot and ended Monday after we were leaving that morning, right? So everything that happened, including the music, was my show, because that's where, that was my experience. You follow me? It was,
I am
the
now.
music was there night after night, and the music was there in the parking lot. The whole community was there, but that was my experience. That was my show,
So was it intentional to pass it on to Nicole, or was it?
No.
Okay.
So the same. All the kids had the same opportunity. Maybe the timing was such because she went at such an early age. And there's other events, for the other girls, there was other events that I wanted to, and some of them came to some of the local festivals, that were Grateful Dead related, with the tribute bands and, or offshoots or whatever. They would come, but they just never got it. Nicole got it. It's in her soul.
I know you're gonna see it at some point. You're gonna go back and look at it, and you're gonna see that obviously, you're, like you said, you raised her since she was 2. I kind of went through the same process. My wife and I got together when my daughter was 11, so a little bit later, but I still raised her in those informative years, and had a big influence on her. You'll see you and her a lot in that conversation. I know you see it anyways, but it's just so interesting to think that I've tried getting my son into some of the things I did. I played in a local band for quite a while. I played guitar in a local band for 3 or 4 years. I collected comic books. I, did art. I've done a lot of different things, and I've tried to get him into some of those, and it doesn't take. That's why I was curious if you really made it as an effort, or if you just did it for fun and she just latched on, like she was ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, it was, a couple times it was like, hey, let's go up to Shoreline to go see the Dead. And so we went. And, my wife at the time she went to a few shows, but it didn't, she just kind of went to go check it out, and it wasn't her deal. And that's okay. It's like Jerry used to say, hey, the Grateful Dead is like black licorice. You either love it or you don't,
And I do
love no gray area, So.
Okay. So here's a downside question. Did you ever have a bad experience at a show that you can remember?
Yeah, I did actually. Okay. Well, it wasn't bad for me, but it was just kind of shocking.
Yeah, experience.
And again, this was one of the shows at the Philadelphia Spectrum, probably in I don't even know what year now, maybe 88, 89.
Okay.
Because it was downtown, kind of in like the South Philly area.
Yep.
So a lot of different people were coming around, and so we were all camped out, and we had tents up in this big park across from the Spectrum. And I woke up the once, I think it was Saturday morning, and there was a ambulance there and the police outside of the tent, and somebody had overdosed in a tree, leaning up against a tree with a needle sticking out of his arm, right behind my tent. It was just kind of weird. That was.
So did that never pushed you away, though? You never felt like those were more like an isolated incident than it was
isolated incidents, because albeit that the range of personality types and people that exist in that love that music and gravitate towards it. I mean, it is the full spectrum of society, right?
Yeah.
So what was interesting is all those years, especially all those years up in San Francisco, some of the people that I met that were in the scene for 20 years or so, there were some of these people were big attorneys and doctors, and there was a huge, the complete professional types that were that were still just totally engaged in the music. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum, and you run into people that are just living on the streets and stuff, but they still have
living in their car, basically
living in their car, and they still have it. They still love the music, but they're scraping by. And I think that's what makes the whole thing so unique, because you do have that full spectrum, that full range of
Yeah, I could say that probably no concert I went to would have that type of range at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you did actually mention some earlier bands, and that you went to a lot of concerts before you started going to the Dead concerts, and I'm jealous, for starters. But what do you? Are there any bands that you liked that are close to their sound, like the singer songwriter, or the like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young? Gordon Lightfoot, people that wrote songs that were kind of more about that. Did you also follow those types of music as well?
Currently, or then, or
all of the above?
I still, I do. The Allman Brothers and Warren Haynes and Government Mule, the bands. I love, and I actually, you mentioned Fish. This is a funny story. I knew a lot of people when Fish was coming around. I knew some friends that saw Fish in the early days, like in the early 95, 96, right when they were getting started up in Santa Barbara. And then they, started to take off, but when they really started to go, and you had a bunch of, you had the Fish heads, you had the Deadheads, and, the virgins of the two, and everything was cool. Everybody, but I really never knew any Fish songs. So, really, I still really don't. But what's interesting is I was in Portsmouth, Virginia one time, and I'm watching we were at Michelle's sister's house, and I'm watching the TV, I'm watching the news or whatever, and on the bottom, the little ribbon was coming across, and it said, "Fish heads descend on Portsmouth." And I'm like, what? Fish? No kidding, really? So then I checked on, did some research, found out that they were playing that night, right? So
wow.
Right. So I said, well, listen, I'm going to go. I didn't have a ticket. I knew where I didn't even know where the place was. Right. So I had to figure out how to get there. Had no tickets. I pull into I go, well, you know what? Let's see what happens. I'll probably get a ticket. Who knows? If I don't, no big deal. Right.
Yeah.
So as soon as I pull into the parking garage, there's a gal standing there with 4 or 5 tickets. She goes, "Face value ticket. Who needs one?" I go, "I do." Right. So I grab a ticket, go in. Park the car, go into the show, walk down to the front, and I saw the same energy, the same vibe that I was accustomed to. And I go, okay, I feel home. Now, what's interesting is when the band started playing, like I said, I didn't know any songs, right? But what I did recognize was the same feeling.
That is
it was
awesome.
kind of the same feeling as when I first saw my first show and really didn't know too many Grateful Dead songs.
Yeah.
But I got the feeling, right? And that's exactly what I experienced at that Fish show. Now I've got tons of friends that love Fish, and they go as much as they can.
Yeah.
I have not. I've seen that one show, but
really,
it was remarkable. It was really remarkable. I'm going, man, oh man, these guys are good. I get it. But there's only so many shows I can go to. I got to kind of pick my.
Yeah, well, and it's same with me. You know, I used to go when I was younger in high school. I went to 2 or 3 concerts a month, or maybe
Yeah.
one concert a month, and then 2 or 3 the next month. But now it's really hard to get into that. So, are you listening to any new music? Are you pulling in anything in that's like new music to you, or new music as in newer created music, or?
Yeah, some of the gosh, I don't know. That's hard. Let's see. So, like on Spotify, for example, I listen to
Yeah.
Spotify, right? And I have, how they do their mixing, right?
Yep.
So there's a few different tunes that I've heard. I go, wow, this is pretty good. Now, off the top of my head, I can't, recall any, but
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, I do. I mean, I do. And sometimes, even some of the like the bands, the cover bands we go see or whatever, that also are playing different types of music. Totally into that. Actually, I went to go see Weird Al Yankovic a while back at the
that's
the
so
Greek
cool.
Theater. That was that must have been 3 years ago now. But it was awesome. What a great show that was. And
He is a trip.
Yeah, we just a couple of weeks ago they had a concert in the park over here, and there was a Fleetwood Mac cover band that was there, Twisted Gypsy, that was just phenomenal. I've seen them a couple times before. They're
So how close was the female vocals to?
Really good. She was
really.
I don't remember if it was the same vocalist as the first time when I saw him.
Okay.
Which was probably 3 years ago, but they nailed it. The Christy McVie gal was amazing. The whole band was great. I mean, it was just spot on.
So cover bands. You seem to be very, very comfortable with doing cover, letting cover bands do their thing with stuff. Are you very critical of the ones that do dead stuff?
I love them all.
Do you really?
Because you know what? And there's so many, Craig, I saw this. Now this is not just cover bands, but I saw this graphic one time, and I wish I could recall. I tried to find it on the internet. I saw it in a book someplace, but it had the Grateful Dead in the center. And it had all of the different, it was like a giant web that just expanded out. All of the bands that were influenced or coexisted during when the Janis Joplin and et cetera, right? And everything that came off of that. And it was startling. The amount of inspiration that has come from all of this at the center of that scene that began in San Francisco, and where it's all gone. Now today, there's a website called GratefulDeadTributeBands.org, I believe, and it tells you in any given city of any given state, probably, I haven't looked on it lately, but probably even in globally, where and when these Grateful Dead cover bands are playing.
So it's not actually on the recording, but after the recording was over, your daughter and I looked it up, and it is Grateful Dead tribute bands, and you can actually click on a state, and it will show you breakdown of every single cover band. Yeah, because I started looking for my state to see if I could find them. I actually want to go to a show at this point. So.
They're everywhere, and they do it because of the origin of the music. The music is timeless. It just it will continue on through eternity as far as I'm concerned.
So let me touch on that real quick. That's a really good point I want to talk about, and then I'll kind of seal us up and ask my 3 quick hit questions for you.
Sure.
So I think that people that write songs like they do, or like Gordon Lightfoot, or it's like Sam Cooke, people that wrote those songs that had stories behind them.
Yeah.
That tell something, that say something, that's kind of a start and end to a song, or to a story. I think that's what makes songs timeless in general. But for them to have written so many that are like that.
They wrote so many, but they also covered a lot of songs like that. Right.
True.
And so the Jerry Band did, and Bobby does. I mean, just the whole. Yeah, those are the ones that kind of certain lyrics will just kind of resonate with you about a certain point in time in your life, and it just becomes that's your go-to song when you're feeling whatever. It's and that's the one that carries you through,
and you can relate to them.
Yeah,
they're not stories of like there's stories about other people and, people that are way bigger than life. But their stories and a lot of the stories of the bands of that time are very relatable. They're relatable to the story that either you've lived or that you know somebody that's lived or that you could live. It's not something outside of the realm of believability like a lot of songs are. And I think that's what's missing a lot in music today. You really got to dig deep to find independent musicians that are singer-songwriters that write stories that people can relate to.
And also those stories can carry onto a melody that is something that grips you.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
When I first came out, I didn't really too much care for her, but to listen to some of the lyrics that she's written with her and her brother and some of the songs they've written, they're extremely relatable. And when I hear her play them with just piano or just, accompaniment and sing them, I'm struck by the ability that she has. And that really leans back on the Grateful Dead and those writers of that time that wrote those songs that connect. And I kick myself for disliking her at the start, but I think people need to dig more to find those things nowadays. I mean, back then it was, like you said, at the height of the Dead coming out and kind of having shows and starting to spread their music and stuff. That was popular. And that's why those songs are still living through today. Those songs are still being listened to. People are still digging into Grateful Dead albums and pulling those out and going, wow, this is really good stuff. Okay, I'm going to hit you with 3 quick questions really quick. We'll tie this up.
Sure.
Records, cassettes, CDs, digital, what's the best?
All of them. I still have all my tapes.
I forgot 8-track.
I have, the convenience of digital is amazing. I mean, listening to, just listen to when Sirius XM, the Grateful Dead still broadcasts shows 3 different concerts a day, right? Yeah. That's available. You've got access to archive.org where every damn show you possibly want. I use an app called Re-Listen where I can search, so that one. But it's so funny. I still, as a matter of fact, just yesterday or 2 days ago, I got in the mail a new CD called Dave's Picks Volume 39. I don't know if you can see that there. And it is awesome. It's actually from now this is before I started going, but it's from the Philadelphia Spectrum in 1983, April 26th of 1983. And so I have a bunch of these. They put out a lot of box sets and stuff. A lot of them I open, I listen to, but I keep them pristine as possible.
Yeah.
I still have LPs, that I picked up, and so I don't know. And I still have all my cassettes because back in the day, before digital media, when the band would play on the East Coast, we would get at the next West Coast show, we get a flyer that people printed out that said what songs they played at what shows, what venues and stuff. And then if you knew somebody who was a taper, then, maybe 3 months later, you'd get a second, third generation. If you were lucky, you'd get a first generation off a soundboard tape where somebody plugged their cassette
into the soundboard. Right?
And that's how tapes got traded. And I still have 100 not 100. I don't know how many boxes I've got. 7 or 8 boxes that each hold 60 cassettes, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot
from all these shows. Especially the ones that I went to.
So it's interesting. I usually make these quick hit, but we're going to have a conversation anyways. I would say that kids nowadays are missing out on the whole bootleg idea.
Yeah.
It's not a thing anymore. It's all on digital media, and you just pay $9 a month and you get everything you want anyways. Live shows, recorded. God, kids are missing out so much on that. What you just said, that whole process. Wow.
Different time.
Okay. Quick hit 2. If you had to only live with one Dead album, what would it be?
Album?
Yeah, just one whole album.
Live
I don't do songs anymore because people are like, there's no way I could pick a song. But if you had to pick one.
Live Dead 69.
I'm adding it to my list too. So last one. Other than the Dead, what is the band that you've seen the most times live?
Seen the most times live? Probably Rush.
Oh, wow.
Probably
That's a soft
Rush. I
spot.
think I saw them like 7 or so times. I made for the show that I went to in Philly at the Philadelphia Spectrum, no less. I actually drew on a big king size sheet.
Yeah.
Dyed it black, and in white paint, I painted the owl from the what was the name of that album? It had a big snowy white owl on it.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Anyway, I can't remember the name of the album. That's crazy. But I painted that owl on there, and I put Rush in, kind of these funky font, and my friend and I paraded it around the venue before the show started, and we had people, just rising up and applauding. It was so cool. But yeah,
Fly by Night. I was gonna say Fly by Night, but I'm like, that's the song. I don't think the album was called that, but it was that. I had to look it up myself. It drove me nuts too.
Away from here.
Yeah, I love that song, and I'm like, there's no way the album's called that too. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's Fly by Night. Ivan, thank you so much for coming on. I could sit here and talk for hours. I try and keep this under an hour because I like, people listen to podcasts and they want to keep them kind of short.
I get it.
Well, we'll catch up later and maybe go over some more detailed stuff of what concert you went to, because I'm really jealous. But yeah, you'll be on second. I'll put Nicole's on first. You'll get to see hers. But I really thank you for coming on and talking to me. Great conversation. Hope you got something out of it too. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Thanks for letting me share. All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yep. Thank you for choosing Music Musing. We hope this story not only gave you a little insight to what music means to someone, but it may also change how music fits into your life. So be sure and drop us a line at musicmusingfeedback@gmail.com and let us know your music story.